Thank you, Jeremy and Arnold, for your presentation. It's great to hear about your farm. And now we're going to answer questions from the audience. Again, type your questions into the questions box and press send. There's a chat box and there is a questions box. We'll be able to see them more easily if you use the questions box, but we'll try to answer questions in both places. And again, if you've asked for pesticide credits from this session, don't forget to sign out in the chat box. So I see one question already. Any weed control in the blackberry row middles besides mowing? And also, what's your weed control in peaches?
Weed control in peaches is usually we'll go through with some paraquat and Chateau or what's the other one? Last 8 months.
Albion. Albion.
Yeah, starts with an A. Albion, I believe it is. I can't remember, but those two are my main ones in peaches. Occasionally we'll use some Cinnabar, Treflan early on. In the blackberry row middle, it seemed like we came back with some Buell along the edges with a hooded sprayer. We do that a time or two just to keep the grasses knocked back off the edge of the ground fabric there.
Yeah, just pretty well mow the row middles and the blackberries. Just go through there, and if push comes to shove, we might spray some gramoxone to kill the broadleaf weeds, and then the grass will grow up. And like Jeremy mentioned, we'll spray the row edges of the fabric to keep it from going up to the plant. And if we have anything around the plant, we'll just go in there and hand weed it.
I would say also with the row middles, we've got some area we're already keeping mowed with a lawnmower or a 0-turn close by. Usually I'll have workers go out there, or my son go out there and hit the blackberry middles too, and it just keeps them nice and neat and clean. And I would also say we have morning glories come up around the blackberries in the hole itself, and we just go back and hand weed that. That's one of our bigger problems, just morning glories.
Thank you. Next question was, do you see white druplet every year in all varieties? And was 2020 worse than other years for you?
We've seen some every year. Last year wasn't all that bad, actually.
Yeah, I didn't think it was all that bad. With Freedom, we really don't notice it at all, hardly. With Washita seems to be the cultivar that we have the most problems with white druplet. And it's usually just for about the first 2 or 3 pickings, and then for whatever reason it just sort of fades away to nothing, and we really don't see it after that. Well, we tried Sweetie Pie, and that one had a lot of issues with white druplet, but Sweetie Pie is gone. And we tried running the rows east, west, north, south. That didn't work. We also utilized some shade cloth over Sweetie Pie. It was so bad, and that didn't work either. So fortunately, we just didn't have much of an issue with it.
I would say I don't want anybody to get to the idea that Freedom's immune to white druplet. I think it ripens so early for us that it just doesn't have that issue. I have seen it have white druplet when we have a pretty hot spring, but we just usually don't have it in Freedom.
Other thoughts? Okay. So I had a question about labor in your operation. You're mostly direct market. Can you talk about the labor you use in blackberries and how it relates to your labor for the rest of the farm?
We use H2A labor. We're kind of a small operation, and especially in Georgia and Southeast Standard, we're kind of small. We grow about 50 acres of fruits and vegetables. We started out with H2A labor 4 years ago. We had 4 workers. Last year we went to 6. This year I'm going to 10, and blackberries just fits real well for us. We've already got the labor there take care of everything. And well, I'll just put it this way: we don't have to worry about labor anymore. That's not one of the real concerns that I have.
Mm-hmm. Next question there is, how many canes do you leave in the bunch, I guess, for each plant when you're pruning?
Try to leave anywhere from 3 to 7. We really don't like to leave any more than 7. Some cultivars, such as Natchez, they don't produce a lot of new canes, and so we're thankful to get 3. And then we also have Traveler, and with Traveler it produces a lot of new canes, and so we have to take out quite a few, but try not to let it be any more than 7.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that right? Okay. Next question is, do you think Captan early as a dormant spray works as well as lime sulfur for anthracnose control? You may or may not have an answer.
I'm not real sure because we never sprayed Captan real early. We use the lime sulfur.
Here's the attitude that we take. We're already growing strawberries. And once strawberries start blooming, we're on a weekly spray schedule. And as a general rule, what I do is the same chemicals work for both crops. So when I spray strawberries, I spray blackberries, and we just we don't have much issue.
Yeah. But the lime sulfur is that's our dormant spray, and we're not spraying Captan at that time, so
yeah,
so we don't really know.
Okay. So somebody else has asked, what do you guys do with your fall fruit? Which I assume may mean, it says full fruit, but I assume they mean fall fruit, and then I assume they mean on the primocane blackberries.
There's not enough to have to worry about.
Yeah,
you get a few to eat if you're walking by.
That's been the sort of the tricky part for us is learning how to deal with a primocane fruiting cultivar, because we're not really interested in the fall production, because like Jeremy said, we don't get enough to worry about. But if we let it fruit, then those canes die back, and then we're kind of panicking because we're thinking disease, and we say, oh no, what's going on? And so what we do now is, as soon as we get through harvesting the fruit, we'll go and remove the old spent floor canes. And as the new primocanes are coming up, we try to keep those tipped. And about every 2 to 3 weeks, we'll walk through there tipping. We'll use the soft pinching method and tip those canes back to try to, on the Traveler and Freedom, to try to keep them from producing flower buds, because we just want them to grow vegetatively. And then that seems to take care of the problem for us. That was a roundabout answer to we don't worry about fall production.
Yeah, that's very much the case.
Yeah, y'all feel free to ask follow-up questions too. If there's a question that makes you have another question. So we're glad to hear. We've got plenty of time here. So next person asked, what kind of spray equipment are you using to spray your fungicides and insecticides?
The blackberries, typically I'm using, but when I'm spraying them by themselves, I've got a 3-point hitch air blast orchard sprayer that I just drive down every row. And, obviously we're overcompensating, but there's no doubt the plant's covered thoroughly. When I'm spraying strawberries and blackberries and peaches, I've got a 500-gallon trailer type sprayer that I'll spray them with. The problem with it is where our blackberries are is a little bit tight. Sometimes it's hard to get in and out of there with a trailer type sprayer, but that's what we use to spray with.
I think it's good to use an air blast type sprayer, because a lot of times your foliage is so dense that you want the material to really get in there and move around inside the plant canopy, and so an air blast does a good job.
I will say one of the reasons our blackberries are so tight to get in and out of with the larger tractors, because we tried to run them east and west to help white fruitlet. And as we said in the presentation, it didn't change anything. Next time I'll run them whichever way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a high tunnel at the end of the road.
Yeah, yeah.
So another question is, you all are still relatively new blackberry growers, and folks like that are really good for giving advice to other people who are new, because you can remember your learning curve is still pretty clear in your mind. So I wonder if you could say a few words about, sort of the main things you've learned and the advice you'd give to somebody else who was starting out in blackberries.
First thing I would say is put your blackberries on a bed. Don't plant them flat. We use our plastic layer to lay the ground cover, and there's no question in my mind putting that plant on the bed really makes a difference. It grows faster. It just does better than putting them flat. The second one I would say is don't plant Chester and Sweet.
Yeah, don't plant those.
Don't do that.
We planted those two cultivars. Sweet pie, the flavor was supposed to be so good on it, and we're obviously Jeremy's selling everything direct, so flavor is important. And Sweetie Pie is a very good tasting berry. It does live up to its name, but it has so many issues that it's not worth it. And
also the only one we saw that spider mites like.
Yeah, it was kind of like the Albion and strawberries for us, and then Chester was too late. I mean, we wanted Chester in there because it was late, but the berries were smaller and it was a little bit more difficult to harvest the Chester because they wanted to hang on tighter. So Cato's going to take that place. Also, Vaughn is a later berry, and Vaughn is much better than Chester. So we just left those two out.
Yeah, and Cato is much better than Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
But there are better choices, I guess, what we're trying to say.
And the other thing that we did that we learned was we initially went in with a single wire trellis, and the issue we had was, you've got the floor canes and you got the prima canes coming up, and so everything gets to be a mess, and it makes harvesting a little bit more difficult. And so what we've done this year, after seeing Dave Lockwoods and Gina's talk last year in Savannah, we're kind of shifting everything over to a T-trellis, and we're actually thinking about going to a shifting trellis. That allows us to better manage the canes and the prima canes, and we think it'll be a better system for us.
Well, yeah, one of the main problems with the trellis system we've got now is when you're picking blackberries, you really need to be tying up your new canes, and you don't have time to. Inevitably, what happens is you get a wind that comes through, and you wind up losing some canes before you can get them tied up. If we were in a T-type trellis or even a shifting trellis, we don't think we'd have those problems. We always lose some canes.
And this year,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this year, or when we established this last planting, we used biodegradable plastic mulch and planted through that, and for that first year. And then we came back with the ground cover and went on both sides of the strawberry plant. And that works, but in hindsight, we should have just gone with the ground cover in a wider row length or width and done that to begin with.
And you can't.
So I guessed wrong on that question about fall fruit. What they were really asking about was cull fruit. So what do you do with the culls after from your planting, the ones you can't sell in your direct market?
Well, we don't have very many culls. What we would have would be pretty bad white druplet, and in the case of sweetie pie, everything hit the ground because it wouldn't fit for anything. In my particular operation, we don't develop a lot of cull marketing, and I'll explain why. Usually when a cull has to be sold at a cheaper price, and our particular clientele, if you offer a lot of product at a cheaper price, they don't forget that, and they come back wanting the best for the cheaper price. And so what culls I usually have, with the exception of maybe canning tomatoes, we either donate or they're simply Arnold culls. I'll just put it that way.
And usually in Jeremy's operation, like we'll harvest today or this morning and actually get them into the cooler. He has a refrigerated truck, and we put them directly in that, take out some of the field heat, and then we get them to the market by dinner time, and they're on the shelf usually by dinner, and usually about the longest that he holds those berries would be maybe 2 days.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a lot of spoilage carryover from after post harvest.
With the exception of maybe peaches and tomatoes, it's our goal to sell something the day it's picked or the next. That's what we strive to do.
That's great. One more question, and this one you may not be able to answer. Asking what would be the life expectancy of your blackberry planting, and so adding to that, kind of where are you going with the blackberries over the next few years, besides variety choices, but just in terms of your goals for the blackberries? How long you expect this planting to last based on what you're seeing, and where are you going with it?
Well, yeah, our first planting is going to 6 years, and it was perpendicular to the larger planting we have now. And when the larger planting came online, the goal was to take out the old. Well, I took them out, mowed them off. I didn't plow them up, but just mowed them off. And we're going to kind of play with those. They've got some good looking stuff that's put up since then. We're just kind of going to play around with them, see what happens. But anywhere between 4 and 7 years is what I would say. It's reasonable for a blackberry planting. And as far as where we're going with it, I really don't have a desire to get into wholesale blackberries. Our operation's more geared more. Not to say we don't wholesale some, we do. We're geared more towards direct marketing. And so I as long as John Clark keeps coming out with the varieties, I'll set them out. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And Jeremy and I have discussed this, and we think 7 years is probably feasible to carry the orchard. The blackberries out too. And actually, we even discussed on some varieties. When we get tissue culture plants from AgriStarts, we could actually almost treat it as a biennial plant, just do them 2 years and pull them out, and we would come out okay like that. But that's not really a good way to do it, and we're not going to go that route.
But we're thinking about trying it on freedom. That's where we're thinking about it.
It's so productive that first year.
So let me change gears now a little bit to talk about sort of the second part of this session, which is talking about how farms responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, changes they've made, and sort of what you expect to continue into the future when the pandemic's gone. And if you could speak to what you saw amongst your customers, how you all dealt with the pandemic, growth of your customer base, anything like that. If you'd comment on your own experience with COVID-19 this past season.
Well, all of us thought it was different. It was a very different year. What we decided to do, the way we built our store, we've got a good-sized porch on 2 different sides, or 3 different sides, actually. And so what we did was we moved everything outside, and, keep in mind, the virus pandemic started about the time we started picking strawberries. So for us, it all hit at one time. And what we wound up doing was we just turned it into a drive-through. Now, I've caught grief on from friends of ours that do what we do all across the state. Some of them said, sound like a good idea. Some of them who are larger operations than me said, there's no way, I wouldn't even think about it. We want people inside our store. Well, I see both sides of it. All I can know to say is what we experienced. And there's no question in our mind that turning our place into a drive-through made me more money. There's not a doubt in my mind. The vast majority of our customers wanted it. They liked it. They were happy with it. I was really worried about it to start with, but the lady that runs our store for us said, you need to listen to what our customers are saying. And so occasionally I would just stand around and listen and listen to what she had to say, and she was right. Now, that's not to say you didn't have customers that came up and they wanted to get out and they wanted to touch their product that they were buying, or maybe touch another one. And, we had to stop all that. Well, inevitably somebody gets mad and drives off. Well, sometimes there's business you don't want. All I know is I didn't have to deal with people squeezing peaches this year.
Did you see a growth in your customers, in the amount of customers?
Yes, no doubt. We had customers driving from an hour away, or actually 2.5 hours away in some cases. We saw in the state of Alabama, some of our car tags are still numbered to where you can tell what county the tag is from. And so I would pay attention to that when I'd see cars come in our parking lot. And there's no doubt in my mind, we had customers that we've never had before. We had new customers and kept a lot of them throughout the summer. And we'd like to think they'll be returning this year and, happy with the experience. I will say we also did online sales. For other friends of mine, it worked really well. For us, it worked, but it never did catch on like the drive-through. By far, the drive-through for us worked. Now, what I would say is when we got into pumpkin time, obviously you can't do a drive-in pumpkin. It just won't work. So we kind of, by that time, people's yards have been let down to some degree. Ours not as critical as what it is now as far as the amount of people being sick. And so we let people get out. But we still try to really stress, don't touch somebody else's food, and, don't touch product if you're not going to buy it and all that kind of stuff. And
I want to encourage other people, please, people listening, you and all, please also share your own experiences in the Q&A or in the audience chat, because, if we were live, we'd all be in the same room and I'd be calling on you and pointing on you and saying, what about you? What about you? So please join in this conversation, other people who are a part of this session, and tell us what your experience was, and we'll share it, read it out loud, and try to make this as interactive as we can. I know that I talked to some strawberry growers up in Virginia, and one of them in an area where there are a lot of growers said that he decided early on to require masks at his farm, even though the state didn't require it and not all other growers did. He found that for him in Virginia Beach, that improved his customers. He got more customers because they saw that he was, making it an extra effort to make it what they saw as a safer place to be. And that may not be true in all parts of the country, but how did you find, people responded to the protocols that you developed?
Go ahead.
I think it was positive. For the most part, you always have the naysayers, but I think it was positive, and all of the help at Jeremy's store that actually waited on the people. They had their mask on, so when people came up, they knew they were we were at least going through the effort to make it safe for them. And they actually had gloves on also, and the little plastic gloves, disposable gloves, and so I think he just gave them for the ones that were really concerned about it, and there's a reason to be concerned with the virus because of its effect on us. But I think they really saw the effort that we were putting forth into it to keep it safe for them, And like Jeremy said, it really increased the business.
Do you expect to continue the drive-through or online store next year or this year? This
That's
year?
a $1 million question. We're already talking about that, and early in the season when all we've got strawberries, I'd say we'll probably start out that way, and we'll see how the year progresses and be prepared to change if necessary to go back inside the building. I can't give that a definite answer because I don't know myself, to be fair with you. We'll just have to see how things progresses. And I'll be honest with you, one other thing, the lady that works for us that manages the store, she manages employees and everything, she's really good at what she does, and she doesn't bother me a whole lot. So whatever she wants to do is probably what I'm going to do.
That makes a lot of sense.
And another thing, this is sort of, has nothing to do with Jeremy's operation, but, if you'll notice Walmart, they started the pickup service. And here at our local Walmarts, they had the original part that they started with, and they actually had to double the amount of space they have now for pickup. And I think in my mind, since people sort of got accustomed to doing that last year, that they're already going to be accustomed to that. And if there's no change in their attitudes, I think it'll be a positive thing because it went so smooth. They didn't have to get out of the car to load or anything. Everything was right there in easy view of them. And the way Jeremy had it set up was somebody would meet the car and say, we have this, this, and this, and what would you like? And they would be getting their order. So when they actually pulled up in front of the stand, their order was ready to go in the car. And so, it was just a minimum amount of waiting time.
We actually had to make 2 lanes.
Really? So you didn't have people call you up or email or put on your website a pre-order. They could just drive up and say what they wanted. They didn't have to get in touch and say, I want 6 flats of this or 3 pints of this in advance. They could just show up.
That's right. And we did both. Obviously, we'd have people call in. When you got somebody driving from 2 hours away, a lot of those people would call in, and there would be tables of orders set back with their name on them. But the vast majority of it was just drive up, here's what I want, they pay you, and they're gone.
So we've got one question here that asked, did the COVID change the quantities or the buying patterns of your customers? I guess how much they bought at any one time or how often they came?
Yeah, they bought more of everything.
It was unreal. As fast as we could get it harvested out in the field, Jeremy was taking it at the store, and they were calling us while we were harvesting, saying, we need more of this, this, and this, and we were going as fast as we could.
I basically became a truck driver. All I would do is start out early in the morning, hoping to get enough ahead from the field so that I wouldn't be just really tight on supply, and then it never worked out. I'd make 4 and 5 trips a day. That's just the way it worked out.
Nice problem to have, huh?
Well, it was.
It's a real good problem to have.
Yes.
Do you think you're going to have to or want to do any additional promotions or anything to remind people to come back? Or you're hoping it's just a new habit?
Well, we've never done a lot of advertising. Now, I will say we put on strawberries and buckets and our peach baskets, we have our name on them, our farm name and phone number and all that. But I've never done very much advertising. It's all on word of mouth. I'd kind of take the attitude, the quality of my stuff ought to speak for itself. So that's kind of how we operate.
He's not going to brag too much, but I am going to brag. He's in our county. He probably has the best quality produce. It's because he pays attention to the way things are done and harvested, and quality sells, and people remember that. And so he has a reputation for having a good product no matter what it is. And so when you have that kind of a reputation, people are going to come to your place and they're going to spread the word around to other people. And so other people will hopefully come and visit also.
Arnold, real generous.
Do y'all have any more questions or comments to share with our presenters? Comments about your own farms or questions for them? I think at this point, then, we will probably wrap this up. I want to thank you again for doing this presentation. I feel like, you know, it's just been a great opportunity to learn more about a farm that's not in Georgia and North Carolina, which is where we mostly are hearing from people here. And to know that there's so much really good farming going on over there in Alabama. And I know there's Alabama people at the conference, and this has just been, you've just done a great job of showcasing your farm. I want to remind people that if you asked for pesticide credits, be sure to sign out in the audience chat. And also that you can see this, if you missed part of this presentation or if you want to see any of them, you can see them all again in the recorded presentations. That's, I think, it. Thanks again, everybody. And enjoy the rest of the conference. Visit the trade show. I spent some time there this yesterday, just sort of going through and chatting with the different booths. They seem really glad to talk to people about their products. And again, I want to remind you all that the North American Raspberry and Blackberry Conference is happening in February. And we encourage you to and you can find out more at www.raspberryblackberry.com. We're going to have more than 25 hours of information, just like you've been catching in the Caneberry sessions here, but oriented towards a national audience and with speakers and breeders and what all from all over the world at that conference. So hope to see some of you there as well. Thanks again. Take care. Bye.